Welcome to City Club of Portland's Friday Forum. I'm Greg MACPHERSON, president of City Club. For 100 years, City Club of Portland is where civic-minded people come together to make Portland and Oregon a better place for everyone to live, work, and explore. We're gathered at the Sentinel Hotel along with all of you listening on OPB or viewing on Portland Community Media or YouTube. The generous support of City Club's corporate and media partners enables us to put on the state's best civic programs week after week. Our media partner is Oregon Business Magazine, and our current Friday Forum sponsors are Bank of the Cascades, Stoll Reeves LLP, Family Care Health, Russell Fellows Properties, and The Standard. In addition, CorePac Construction is a sponsor for this Friday Forum program. Please show our appreciation for all of them. Joining us today is Multnomah County Chair Deborah Kafoury. Chair Kafoury will present her annual State of the County address, an assessment of Oregon's most populous county. Multnomah County provides support for homeless families, public health services, assistance for veterans, the elderly, and the disabled, as well as maintaining key transportation infrastructure, including many of Portland's downtown bridges. She will review the work the county has done over the past year and look ahead at the next year's priorities. Chair Deborah Kafoury learned early on that one person can make a difference. After watching her mother open their Northeast Portland home to women escaping domestic violence or families with nowhere to sleep. Her parents both held elective office. Those early lessons shaped a deep commitment to public service. After graduating from Grant High School, Deborah earned a bachelor's degree in English at Whitman College. Returning to Portland, she followed her parents' example of elective service, winning a seat in the Oregon House of Representatives. There, Deborah's talents were recognized as she quickly became House Minority Leader. It was my privilege and pleasure to serve with her in the House. Deborah left the legislature then to focus for several years on raising her 3 children. She was elected to the County Commission in 2008 and in 2014 to the position of County Chair. Please welcome my friend and former colleague, Multnomah County Chair Deborah Kafoury, to City Club.
Thank you, and thank you, Greg. Last year, just about this time, I lost my mother. And I want to thank the City Club once again for allowing me to reschedule my remarks to accommodate my family's need to be together during that difficult time. One of the things I'll never forget about my mom is the little figurines that she kept on her desk, a little man. It was there to remind her, she told me, to always look out for the little guy. As time passes, I increasingly see her influence on me. The way she taught me to define success by your ability to help other people, to pursue integrity through your commitment to do what you say you're going to do, and to never forget that true democracy is one that serves the people before the powerful. I begin today with thoughts of my mother for 2 reasons. First, it is impossible to be here a year after her passing and not think of the woman who shaped who I am. And I take secret joy that it scares my husband that I'm becoming just like her every day. But second, and more importantly, it's because my mom was part of a generation of leaders who made this such a unique place that we became the envy of the country. Over time, our community has built a reputation as a place that prizes livability and a high quality of life. But that reputation is threatened on many fronts right now. First, through inequity. We have one of the best business climates in the country, and corporate profits are doing exceptionally well in sector after sector, but wages aren't keeping up. 1/3 of Multnomah County residents don't earn enough to cover their basic needs. And while our unemployment rate continues to fall, the number of people living in poverty including those working low-wage jobs, continues to rise. Second, through complacency. Unfortunately, we have become a victim of our own self-image, and we've forgotten the hard work it takes to be worthy of that image. For example, we have an incredible, yet false, sense that we are of a success as a green city. In February, I found out that, like many of you, I live near a toxic hotspot. Forest Service researchers found that moss collected in neighborhoods across Portland had high levels of heavy metals: arsenic, chromium, and cadmium. In the days after the news broke, my neighbors grew terrified. One night, I walked into my son's high school auditorium for a public meeting. There were hundreds of parents and worried people there. Everyone was trying to understand how, living in one of the most beautiful, so-called greenest cities in America, we could have been exposed to this toxic air for so long. There are still too many questions. And as an elected official, I have to admit that I couldn't offer reassurance when my own sense of outrage was, and still is, so great at the complete failure of state regulators to protect the health of our neighbors and not the health of businesses. Finally, thank you. Finally, not dealing with the new problems caused by our previous success is putting our community at risk. The fact is, people want to come here, and they're moving here in droves. It is foolish to fight market forces which are driving up home costs all across the region. But we need to work with developers to ensure a better supply of truly affordable options. Connected to the crisis we see at Multnomah County for people without housing, which I will talk more about in a minute, is a second, far larger housing crisis, which is causing the breakup of historical, racial, and cultural centers. It is making more and more people feel strapped to cover rents that already stretch tenuous household incomes. And it makes home ownership almost impossible on average salaries. We may still be a bargain for those fleeing San Francisco, but if political leaders and developers don't come together soon, we are in real danger of becoming just like the place all those people left behind: overpriced and overcrowded. The real question that we face as a community is the same one we struggle with at Multnomah County. What are our priorities? I feel privileged to work with so many people at Multnomah County who keep pushing for fair housing, for high-quality health care, and an end to racial discrimination and injustice. I work alongside 6,000 of the most passionate and dedicated public servants in the country. I have seen how much we can do when we move from saying we should to we can and we will. The greatest challenge we face, in my view, is how to address the housing crisis in Multnomah County. Over the last year, rents countywide have jumped by double digits, and the number of vacant apartments is hovering at 3%. The cheapest two-bedroom apartment is more than the take-home pay of a minimum wage worker and more than the benefits of a single parent with 2 children on temporary cash assistance. That's why people increasingly need rent assistance and help finding a home. But providing these services is getting harder. We must find ways to include affordable units in the multi-million-dollar developments that are rapidly changing our neighborhoods. We need to work with private developers to increase the supply of affordable housing for renters and buyers. We must also keep rent affordable. Otherwise, sky-high rent increases and no-cause evictions will push more people to need help. People who've lived in neighborhoods like Lentz, Albina, and Cully for decades are finding it harder to keep up with the rent. And as they are forced to leave, looking for a cheaper place to live or doubling up with a family member, they take with them the culture and community that makes these places special. Finally, we need to be creative in how we help people who have lost their homes. I've invested county dollars to get people into housing and to prevent them from losing it, because every dollar that we spend putting a roof over someone's head is many dollars that we won't have to spend helping someone cope with the trauma of living on the streets. Last year, Multnomah County dedicated $5 million to build more affordable housing. We also expanded property tax exemptions for developers who set aside 20% of their new units as affordable. The Portland Housing Bureau expects that this tax incentive alone will produce as many as 300 units every year. And earlier this month, the Oregon legislature passed a package of bills that will ensure tenants get 90 days notice before a major rent increase and allow the city of Portland to require developers to set aside a portion of new units as affordable. Commissioner Dan Saltzman and I pushed hard for the legislature to make these changes because for too long, our hands have been tied by statewide preemptions and gridlocked politics. While I'm happy to see movement in Salem, there is still much more that needs to be done. And I think the work that we're doing here locally by bringing together cities, county, businesses, and nonprofits is an example of how to overcome politics and get things done. Last year, Mayor Charlie Hales and I set a goal, an audacious goal, to end veteran homelessness by the end of 2015. And we did it. Last January, we took a survey of people living on our streets, in cars and emergency shelters, and found that about 690 veterans experience homelessness in our community each year. We set out to house 60 people each month. But we quickly ran into a problem. Vets who had housing vouchers couldn't find an apartment to rent. So we got on the phones. And along with my colleagues at the city, we asked private landlords to pledge units to our cause and to give us a heads up when something opened up so we could house a veteran. And it worked. Apartment referrals started pouring in, and by December, we had housed nearly 700 veterans. We're not done yet. Veterans will continue to need support, but by investing our resources wisely, we now have a system that helps any veteran who is homeless find housing quickly and stay there. Success like this shows us the way. We have to be willing to do the work. And that was the idea behind A Home for Everyone, a community partnership that brings city and county government together with foundations, business and faith leaders, and nonprofits to align our community around a single plan to fight homelessness. Ending veteran homelessness is an example of how this works in practice. We form partnerships, we set goals, we find the money it takes to reach those goals, and we hold ourselves accountable. Not long ago, the mayor and I got together and pledged $30 million in new resources for more affordable housing, more shelter, and more support services. With this funding, we will be able to help another 1,000 people avoid eviction. We will be able to help more than 1,300 women, children, and people with disabilities move into permanent housing. And we will allocate additional $10 million to build new units that serve those who are homeless or at imminent risk of homelessness, with a particular focus on those suffering from a mental illness. This new approach is working. Last year, we housed 3,500 people, which is 17% more than the year before. And if we keep investing in this work, we can reduce by half the number of homeless people on our streets by 2018. Last summer, Jean DeMaster reached out to me. Her nonprofit, Human Solutions, had a lead on a property that would allow them to expand the number of families served by their shelter. The problem? They needed help with the down payment. So I went out to take a look at the property, a shuttered vegan strip club called the Black Cauldron. Walking inside, there was no light, natural or electric. and the place smelled like stale alcohol. We had to use the flashlight app on our phones to see in front of us. The shelves of the bar were still lined with bottles of tequila and whiskey, and a lone, high-heeled shoe laid on the shag rug stage shaped like a cauldron. It was no place you wanted to be in the middle of the day, let alone I could imagine at 10 o'clock at night. While we knew it was nothing to look at, the price and the location were right, and the potential value of stability for our services outweighed the downside of the renovation. So I took the idea to my board and secured the votes. After just 10 weeks of renovation, I returned to a building that from the outside looked the same, but inside is completely unrecognizable. Light pours in from newly cut windows. The floors gleam. There are comfortable areas for kids to do homework and piles of games and baby toys. This shelter is now serving 130 people every night, and it's open year-round, 24 hours a day, with warm showers, a kitchen where families can prepare fresh meals, and a staff who connect people to social services. Any family that needs help will get it. No one is turned away. Before this, families had to pack their things and leave every morning, and the shelter was only open in the winter. I will never forget the sight of seeing kids lined up at 7 o'clock at night on a cold, wet evening, waiting for those shelter doors to open for a warm place to do their homework. I'm glad we now have a safe place for these families, but the fact that we so desperately need these shelter beds in the first place reminds me that while we are doing good, we can do better. I cite housing as our greatest challenge for 3 reasons. First, as it has already been made clear, because the problem is so large, driven by economic forces beyond our control and affecting so many people in our community. Second, while the economy is good, we have the opportunity to make limited new investments now, which will allow us to serve more people in the future. And third, we can't plan on things being good forever. Sooner or later, an upturn is followed by a downturn. And when that happens, we will see more people losing their housing, many of them ending up on the street. Because our budget is balanced and our reserves are met for the next 3 years, our next responsibility after responding to our housing crisis is thinking about our future needs, which is why I've made sure that the work that needs to be done on our central courthouse, the Selwood Bridge, and ultimately the Burnside Bridge gets done. Last month, I was proud to stand on the deck of the new Selwood Bridge, surrounded by thousands of our neighbors, and celebrate the opening of the seismically safe Willamette River Bridge. The old Selwood Bridge had a sufficiency rating of 2 out of 100, but for years, replacing it was a recommendation without a plan or without funding. As County Commissioner, I fought for the project, found the necessary funding, and got the project off the ground. And as County Chair, I've watched the bridge rise up from the river, providing new safe crossings for bikes, pedestrians, and commuters. We built it. But our work isn't done. Last July, The New Yorker published a story detailing the devastation of a 9-point Cascadia subduction zone earthquake on Oregon. The scope of the threat is frightening. But I think it shows how important it is to be prepared today. Before The New Yorker put this issue front and center, Multnomah County was already working on a capital improvement plan for our Willamette River bridges. Last month, we kicked off a study that will find the most cost-effective way to make the Burnside Bridge a safe, earthquake-resistant lifeline for our first responders. Was that Steve Nova clapping? The Burnside Bridge was built 110 years ago, and if we want it to stand for another 100 years, we need to act now. The same is true for our Central Courthouse, another project that sat on the shelf for 45 years, but now is moving ahead. Our 100-year-old courthouse won't survive a major earthquake and no longer meets the needs of our community. After years of talking about a new courthouse, we're finally building it. We're also moving ahead with a new health department headquarters located in Old Town. This project will make sure that our downtown clinics, labs, and offices will be seismically safe and bring jobs and economic vitality to a neighborhood that needs them. I want to take a second to thank Commissioner Loretta Smith for making sure that our new health department building will continue to bear the name of former Multnomah County Chair Gladys McCoy, the first Chair McCoy was the first African American to serve on the Board of Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Last year, we reduced the complexity and cost of taxes for small business owners, allowing them to invest more in our local community and in jobs for local residents. We raised the minimum wage for Multnomah County employees to $15 an hour. And the Oregon legislature followed suit, raising the wage for all Oregon workers. A mother shouldn't have to struggle to hold down 2 jobs in order to afford an apartment for her and her child. And she shouldn't have to, yes, thank you, Kayshawn. And she shouldn't have to choose between a healthy baby and a healthy career. But a survey of Multnomah County employees showed that women were taking 6 weeks of unpaid leave after the birth of a baby. Not anymore. Multnomah County now provides paid parental leave, joining major employers like Intel and Microsoft, and, I should add, most industrialized countries. We are also continuing important investments in our kids. This year, we are expanding a partnership with the Community Healing Initiative to provide culturally specific services and mentorship to gang-impacted youth. Nonprofits POIC and Latino Network connect kids with mentors who help them develop personally and professionally. One of the strongest relationships mentor Randall Wyatt has had the pleasure of building is with Keyshawn. He's a kid who's seen a few ups and downs, but he's been making steady progress over the past 6 months. Wyatt got Keyshawn into a recording studio where he was able to hear his voice on a professionally recorded track, something the two hope to do together again. A few months ago, Wyatt and Keyshawn went to the Multnomah County Library to fill out a job application. A few weeks later, Keyshawn was called in for an interview, and thanks to his charm, optimism, and smiling face, he was offered a job at Chipotle. As a mother, I feel strongly about making sure that young people like Keyshawn have every opportunity they need to succeed. This year, we brought the SUN program to schools in the Park Rose, Gresham, and Reynolds school districts, bringing the total number of SUN schools in Multnomah County to 87. The county partners with schools and community organizations to make sure kids have a meal and a safe place to go after school. But our SUN program is so much more than that. Through our partners, we connect families with parenting and anti-poverty services. We provide academic tutoring and wraparound supports that help our youth thrive. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to visit the SUN program at Ron Russell Middle School, run by El Programa Hispano. We were greeted at the door by Madeline Hernandez, who coordinates the SUN school. She was excited and really proud to show me around. It was immediately clear that she felt a connection to her kids and pride in her work. 100% of the kids at Ron Russell are on free or reduced lunch. When I got there, the kids were on their way to class, and Madeline knew each one by name, asking them where they were going and how their day was. Then I followed her into the classroom where I could see the program in action. Madeline took me into a class where IRCO staff were helping Somali kids with their homework, working through some of the core nuances in the English language. Skills that will help these students in their studies, but also in building relationships with other students in their school. In another room, Latino Network staff were teaching a leadership development class. Pairs of students were presenting to the class, facilitating a conversation about breaking down racial stereotypes in the media. They have a big well to draw from with Donald Trump all over the TV. We are doing a good job, but we can do better. I heard last year from community members that it was time to make sure that the services that we offer are working for all of our kids, whatever their needs are. We've learned from reports from our own county health department the depth of disparities faced by people of color in Multnomah County. Services and organizations that are rooted in communities of color work with kids to create positive cultural identity, a sense of belonging, and relationships that help even our most marginalized kids on a path to success. This year, we'll be working more closely with those organizations, making sure that our investments in SUN align with the communities we serve. Throughout the budget and across the county, we are working to eliminate racial and ethnic disparities. The county alone can't solve the inequities in our community, but we can make sure that we spend our dollars in a way that helps families, children, seniors, and veterans overcome the barriers of institutional racism and economic instability. Last year, the county expanded our school-based mental health network, increasing the number of students we help by 19% to 1,700. Nearly 50% of these kids are students of color. And this year, we've also increased the diversity of our staff so that we can ensure that kids are provided with a sense of safety and a sense of belonging. These children are witnessing crimes and experiencing trauma that many of us can only imagine. Having mental health counselors in their schools helps kids cope and heal. One student witnessed a murder outside of her home. The terror she felt when she saw the gun, heard the shots, and saw the body fall haunted her. She couldn't concentrate on her studies, she couldn't eat or sleep, and the stress put strain on her relationship with her family. She began to isolate herself, and her family did not know how to cope. They didn't have the resources available to them in their native language of Spanish. But a county mental health counselor helped this student stabilize her emotions and fight the symptoms of PTSD. Her counselor brought together the district attorney's office, a Gresham police detective, teachers, school counselors, and others to help her cope. She still feels nervous, but now she can sleep. As the county health authority, ensuring our kids are healthy and safe is a central part of everything we do, and whether it's our work in schools, in housing, or in public safety. All of the work that I've talked about so far today is thanks to Multnomah County's incredibly dedicated employees. Every day they come to work determined to make someone's life better, to make their community safer and more equitable. I am lucky to serve with such talented, committed people. And while I'm up here giving this speech, I know that the successes that we've had at Multnomah County are not mine alone. So I'd like to take some time to highlight the work of my colleagues on the County Commission. As many of you know, 3 of the commissioners will leave the board in January, capping distinguished careers serving Multnomah County. During her time at the county, Commissioner Judy Shiprack has fought to improve all aspects of the criminal justice system. She cares passionately about public safety being fair and equitable. She is a relentless champion. By dedicating herself to improving our local justice system, she led the county to seek and win a grant from the MacArthur Foundation to reduce our community's over-reliance on jail. Thanks to Judy's focus, the county is working to reduce racial and ethnic disparities and divert people who suffer from mental health issues into the appropriate health care. Commissioner Shiprack has helped Multnomah County become a model for the state of Oregon's Justice Reinvestment Initiative, which is an effort to invest dollars locally instead of only using state prison beds. I also want to acknowledge the important role that Judy has played on the commission. Her time in the legislature taught her how to get things done. She has been a fellow strategist and a co-conspirator with a wicked sense of humor. I plan to continue asking the same question Judy has. How do we spend our public safety dollars wisely? We know that jail is the most expensive short-term answer to protecting our community. It is sometimes necessary, but we can get better outcomes and make our community safer if we invest in treatment and alternative sanctions for low-risk offenders. But our work doesn't stop with the budget. We must also hold our criminal justice system accountable. The turmoil in our sheriff's office is deeply troubling, and it is becoming a distraction from the important work we need to do to keep our community safe. I want to thank Commissioner Loretta Smith for pushing for answers from the sheriff's office about the deep racial disparities in the treatment of jail inmates. An audit from the sheriff's office that came to light recently showed that Black inmates, who make up about 1/4 of the population, make up 39% of the incidents of use of force. The findings in this audit show that our jail practices need to change. I stand with you, Commissioner Smith, in making sure that that change happens. I also stand with you on our $2 million investment in Promise Neighborhoods, an initiative that you championed that is providing targeted wraparound services to children of color in East Multnomah County, with a focus on improving graduation rates, school attendance, and positive family engagement. Thank you, Serena. Commissioner Diane McKeel has also dedicated her time in office to issues close to her heart. She focused the county's efforts to ensure that veterans get the services and the benefits they need. She made it easier for veterans to get help. She's also the one at every board meeting who asks, how will this affect East Multnomah County? Thanks to Commissioner McKeel's leadership, the county now has better relationships with the cities outside of Portland than ever before. Commissioner McKeel and I had the opportunity last summer to attend the dedication of Snake Field, a new place for kids to play in Gresham. I want to tell you about one of my Facebook friends, Ricky Ruiz. In 2014, Multnomah County and the city of Gresham applied for a Promise Zone designation from the federal government. We didn't get that designation, but that didn't stop us. And it didn't stop Ricky. Ricky grew up in Rockwood, sneaking over the fence to play soccer with friends on a vacant field. They used anything, backpacks or books, as goalposts. He dreamed of a professional-grade field for kids in the neighborhood, but how? Who was going to pay? Ricky didn't say, I'll wait in line until it's my turn. He said, I'm going to get the money myself. He called the Portland Timbers. He called other sponsors. As a young intern in the county's Division of Assessment and Taxation, he brought the right county officials together. So when the money came in from the Timbers and from the other grants, the land was ready, donated by Multnomah County. Seeing him on that field, showing the kids from Alder Elementary how to dribble a soccer ball is one of my favorite memories of the year. Every kid on that field was making a cherished memory. I want to take a minute to thank Gresham Mayor Shane Bemis for his partnership at Vance Park and in other areas. Over the past few years, I've had the pleasure of getting to know Mayor Bemis and working with him and the other East County mayors to ensure that Multnomah County represents everyone who lives within our boundaries. I know Mayor Bemis can't be here today, but I believe that Fairview Mayor Ted Tosterud, Wood Village Mayor Patricia Smith, and Troutdale Mayor Doug Doust are here. Thank you for your support. I look forward to working with you in the years to come. And thank you, Commissioner McKeel, for serving Gresham, Troutdale, Fairview, Wood Village, and the whole of East Multnomah County. So I can rattle off all those cities really well now, can't I? In his time on the commission, Jules Bailey has been busy. He championed the county's investment in the Unity Center, a regional mental health facility opening up this fall that will help those in mental health crisis get the specialty care they need instead of spending hours in a waiting room or being carted off to jail. He's also taken the lead on the Levee Ready Columbia, a regional project to ensure that the network of levees that protect jobs, homes, and farmland all along the river are safe. And he's been a steadfast ally of mine, fighting for more resources for housing and homelessness because he understands the need in our community is for tangible solutions to these problems. And as a father of a newborn, he also knew the value of making sure our employees had paid family leave. I believe I even met his son, August, on the day that we voted to put that policy in place. I will miss working with my colleagues that are leaving the commission next year, but I'm certain that their commitment to public service won't end with the expiration of their term. Thank you, all of you. But here's the challenge. There is so much more to do this year. The county is on strong financial footing, but the need for rental assistance, affordable housing, mental health services, and help for seniors far outpaces the dollars that the county has. Our community has never seen a housing crisis like this, and it's only now that we're in crisis that people are focused on this issue, something that has been important to me for many, many years. This is not something that's going to get solved overnight. We need sustainable funding for our short-term and long-term housing needs. Temporary rental assistance for those living on the edge, permanently affordable housing for working families, and supportive housing to help the chronically homeless get in out of the cold. Which is why the partnership that we've formed, A Home for Everyone, is so important. Together, the city and the county have been able to combine our resources and eliminate jurisdictional barriers that used to stop us from getting things done. By aligning our budgets, we are ensuring that we can quickly respond to emerging needs, like the vote that the county took yesterday, putting $1 million towards rental assistance and an additional $4.7 million toward a fund to invest in new shelter beds. But we're also taking the long view, putting into place a plan for services and investments that will reduce the number of people in our community who become homeless in the first place. To do that, we need to eliminate duplications in homeless services. Right now, we're working to formalize a partnership by creating a joint city and county office of homeless services. No longer will homeless families be the county's responsibility and homeless singles the city's. Finally, all of our community resources will be housed under one roof. And while that doesn't sound particularly exciting, it really matters. A mother who's looking for a warm place for her child to sleep doesn't care about which government agency is responsible for helping her. She just needs help. Mayor Charlie Hill's leaving his position with the City of Portland constitutes a challenge to our partnership. Mayor Hales has shown the leadership to identify the city resources necessary to change people's lives and to put us on a path to reducing the number of people sleeping on our streets. It is my hope that the new mayor will step up and show the same commitment and leadership. Many of the details still need to be worked out, but our successes over the last year tells me that if we have the political will and the guts, we will make this work. Now is the time to make investments like expanding housing and homeless services, because spending wisely today will not only stretch taxpayer dollars for the greatest impact, but it will ensure that when the next recession hits, we're prepared for it. During the Great Recession, the need for the work that we do, housing homeless families, helping seniors and the disabled, and those who are living on the edge, grew. At the same time, the number of dollars we could spend dropped dramatically. We fought hard to hold our safety net in place, but we couldn't meet the need then, and our uneven recovery has left even more people in our community needing help and not knowing where to find it. By investing the dollars we have today in expanding services, we can address the short-term housing needs in our community and set up a long-term plan to keep those supports in place when the next recession strikes. I want to go back to that town hall at my son's high school for a minute. I was standing with hundreds of other parents and neighbors who had just learned that their gardens and their children had been exposed to arsenic and cadmium. These heavy metals were found in dangerously high concentrations in moss samples near the Bullseye Glass Company. They were scared, they were anxious for answers, and they were angry. Angry about what they saw as inaction on the part of the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. Then we found out about another hot spot near another glass company, Ouroboros in North Portland. Then we found out about another heavy metal, chromium. Back in 2011, Multnomah County called on the DEQ to put rules in place protecting the public from these kinds of polluters, but our call was met with inaction. In February, we called on the state to act again, and we told them if they don't, we will, by forming our own regional air authority. I am encouraged that the state has responded to my calls for stepped-up testing of air and soil. This type of action is long overdue. But the community still has outstanding concerns and questions. Answering these questions quickly is the first step to rebuilding the public's trust. Now, the scary part is that the pollution from loosely regulated factories is only a piece of the air quality problem in our community. Oregon has become a dumping ground for dirty diesel engines that are illegal in Washington and California, and it shows in our air quality. Multnomah County has one of the worst exposure rates to diesel pollution in the country, which is especially harmful to children. Locally, we are doing our part. Multnomah County cleaned up our diesel equipment. Mayor Hales and I, along with the Port of Portland and Metro, are committed to passing clean diesel engine procurement standards for all city and county contracts by the end of this year. But we won't be able to solve this problem locally. The state needs to step up and set an expiration date on dirty diesel engines. We pushed for this in 2015, and we'll push again in 2017. But we need the legislature to have the courage to stand up to the lobbyists that get paid to protect polluters. Too often, politicians lose sight of the people that they can help if they do the right thing. Our representatives in Salem need to hear from us. Over the last year, I've become less patient with our political process. I ran for county chair to impact people's lives. And while the problems that we face are difficult, that cannot be an excuse for not taking action. And for all our challenges, I think that there are some important opportunities at this moment. When I think back to that town hall in my son's high school auditorium, I realize that despite the still too many unanswered questions, there are 3 clear positives. The first is, I actually see it as a good thing that this has shattered the myth that we can be green without doing the work to hold businesses and government accountable. Secondly, we clearly sent a message that there are many people willing to get involved who just want to know what to do. And I think that's as true in housing as it is in air quality. This community is full of good people who just need the information and organization. The third fact is that it underscores something that I've felt for a while, that we here in Multnomah County must be willing to lead the way. We led on minimum wage, becoming the first government in Oregon to put its workers on a path toward a $15 minimum wage. Salem followed, and now workers across Oregon will see their wages rise in July. And when I heard that my then 8-year-old daughter could buy an e-cigarette from a corner store, I didn't wait for the state. I've worked with my colleagues on the Board of Commission to regulate this new tobacco product. Salem followed our lead with a statewide policy. We are also implementing a licensing program for businesses that sell tobacco. The way you need a license to have a dog, sell a Christmas tree, or run a food cart. And while the state hasn't yet followed our lead, I have no doubt they will. And whether we're talking about the county leading on housing issues, or, if necessary, on air quality, I know that when we join together here in Multnomah County, we can drive the state to follow. Thank you.
In keeping with City Club tradition, Multnomah County Chair Deborah Kafoury will now take questions from the audience. City Club members are invited to ask their questions at the microphone, there's one located here toward the front, and anyone in the audience may write a question on an index card and hold it up for City Club staff to collect and pass up to me. So let's take our first question, and the honor goes to Bill Dickey.
Bill Dickey, City Club member. Don't have a question today, breaking the rules slightly. The membership drive today is important to me. The City Club needs new members. That's how we pay for this organization. And so if 10 members join today, then I will put their names in a hat, and one of those 10 members will get a round-trip airline ticket anywhere in the United States Alaska Airlines flies. So, it's the Golden Ticket Membership Drive. If you want to fly to Hawaii this year, join City Club today.
Bill. Hello.
Thank you, Bill Dickey.
Hi, I'm Joyce DeMonin, City Club member. In just a few years, 20% of our population will be 60 or older. The county and the city of Portland have both developed age-friendly plans. What does that mean for you, and what is your age-friendly plan for the future?
Well, at Multnomah County, thank you for that question. At Multnomah County, we value our seniors and our elders. We know that the work that they've done, my dad is nodding his head in approval, the work that they've done in our community to make us what the great place we are should not be looked away. We do a lot of senior services at Multnomah County, but we know that, as you talked about, because the number of people who are in the age bracket is going to grow, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that all the services that we provide have a senior-friendly element to it. And we're also lucky to have such great champions on our county commission as Judy Shiprack and Loretta Smith, who serve on the, as liaisons to the Board of Elders in Action. Thank you.
If Bill can break the rules, I want to break the rules too.
You got to say your name first, promise.
Okay, you already said, my name is Promise, City Club member. I am breaking the rule, Deborah, you rock. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. I just want to thank you for discovering me and giving me a chance and for making it possible to help other communities. Thank you for all that you do for us. And also want to thank Dan Sussman for 2 of you have made a difference in my life. I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hi, Robin Castro, City Club member. And this question is about density in Portland. The number of apartments you were talking about coming into Multnomah County. What does the county feel should be done about the parking situation? A lot of these apartments don't have parking. Thanks.
Well, I don't like to say that the city or the county doesn't have anything to do with parking requirements, but we really don't have a lot of influence over the city on parking requirements. However, there's a table right here in front. You see these guys? In fact, I think there's a quorum of Portland City Council right here ready to tackle your question.
Hi, Chair Kafoury. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Raylene McMillan. I'm a longtime City Club member, and I work in government relations for Portland Community College, who's really happy to be here today. My question, yeah, Portland Community College. My question is a little bit more 50,000 feet up. I want to give you an opportunity, a little selfishly. My undergraduate work at Portland State University focused on gender and politics. And I just want to give you some space to talk about, because we're doing a really good job in Multnomah County and in the state of Oregon, approaching parity a lot faster than a lot of other states. But the United States as a whole still really lags. Can you just talk a little bit about your experience being a female elected leader, working alongside some other incredible female elected leaders, and what impact do you think feminine energy has on the legislative process?
That's a great question. How about all the women elected officials in this room? Give yourselves a round of applause. And I also see, as I look around, some fabulous women who are running to be in elected office. Let's give them a round of applause as well. We are very lucky at Multnomah County. I mean, currently we have 4 of the 5 of us serving on the Board of Commissioners who are women. And I think that as shown and evidenced by the work that we've been able to get done, it's pretty amazing. I also would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Jillian Shoney, who's sitting right here in the front. Jillian runs a program called Emerge Oregon, which helps get women running for office. It's extremely important. There's a lot of women in this room who've benefited from her work. And that is something that I take very personally. I know my mother, with her work over the years, the Oregon Women's Political Caucus and other organizations, championed women in elected office and women in positions of power across our community, and it's something that I take responsibility I take very seriously. Thanks.
Ted Kay, City Club member. How concerned are you about the increasing fraction of the Multnomah County budget that's going to PERS contributions, and what do you think should be done about it?
You are really lucky because there is an extremely smart person in this room. He's standing right next to me, who I worked with in the Oregon legislature in 2003, the first year that we passed some reforms on PERS. I haven't kept up as closely as I should over the years. I know the legislature passed some changes that were ruled out by the Supreme Court. What I can say is that we are doing a really great job at Multnomah County of preparing ourselves for the upcoming hit to our budget. We're starting to put away money early so that it doesn't come as a big financial shock to us when we have to pay a bill in the upcoming years. And again, you know, I'm torn. I think that the employees who worked long and hard for public service deserve the wages that they have. In fact, they deserve to make more than they do. As I talked about, my 6,000 friends who are out there in the audience who work for Multnomah County do an incredible job, and I just want to give them another round of applause.
I've Got an index card question in response to your comment about forming a regional air quality authority. Given that air can flow across jurisdictional boundaries, how large a local air authority would we need if the state fails to act?
Well, right now, Multnomah County is working on an RFP to hire a consultant to help us look at exactly how we would go through this process. And it definitely would include working with Washington County and Clackamas County and Metro. And in fact, we've already started conversations with the other jurisdictions because this is a problem not just here in Portland, but it is around the Tri-County area. Again, I really believe that taking the pressure off of the state is not the right thing to do, but if the state is not going to act, I think that we don't have any other choice.
Very good. And another index card question. The minimum wage increase addresses one driver of poverty, which is low wage rates. What about employers, including many of the national retail chains, that intentionally fail to schedule their employees for full-time hours, even though their employees would like to get them, keeping them below a poverty level?
Is that Steve Novick's question? I mean, I think it's really irresponsible. It's especially difficult for working parents. I can't imagine having to have a different schedule each week and trying to figure out how I'm going to have childcare. It's hard enough balancing a career with 3 children in school with a very consistent schedule. Consistent meaning that I'm out every day and every night working, but I also have a wonderfully supportive husband who helps me with that. I think that I don't know what role Multnomah County plays in that effort, except to say that we support workers, and if there's any way that we can be helpful to the people in our community who are working hard to make ends meet, we're here for you.
With a question from the microphone.
Leslie Johnson, City Club member. Thank you very much, Chair Kafoury. A couple of questions come to mind since we're in election season. I won't ask the hottest, most obvious question, but I've wondered how motor voter registration is going at the county level, what the numbers look like, if there have been any hitches or if it's going very smoothly. And I've also was reminded by a recent news report that people that get registered as voters that way don't end up with a party affiliation until they take some kind of affirmative action. What is that going to mean in the spring, and does it bring to mind the notion that we should be talking about an open primary again?
Well, I first want to give the state and the legislators and Governor Brown a big round of applause for passing the motor voter bill. I heard on OPB last week that the numbers of people who've been registered have dramatically increased. I think it was like 15,000 new voters registered. So I think it's definitely the step in the right direction. It is important for us in Multnomah County, since we do hold the elections locally, to make sure that those folks who are now registered actually are encouraged to vote. And any way that we can partner with our community-based organizations to help people remember to vote once the time comes, and make sure that they have the proper channels to be able to do so. Open primary, I don't know. I think it's failed a couple of times on the ballot, and I don't think it's up in November.
And we'll take our final question from the microphone.
Hi, Carol Witherell, City Club member. How can we find the added resources necessary to do a countywide pervasive approach to restorative practices in schools that will keep kids in schools, build their relationships, and keep them out of the school to prison pipeline?
That's a great question. And I think you've really touched on some important points. We are working on exactly that at Multnomah County. Luckily, because we have a more stable budget this year and for the past few years, we've been able to put money into prevention, which is something that when you're looking at cutting budgets, it's usually the first thing to go. One of the programs that I talked about today, the CHI, the Community Healing Initiative, is a way that we partner with nonprofits to make sure that kids have mentors in their lives to help them, especially lived experience mentors who can help kids, show them a different path in life. That's one. The work that we've done at our son schools and the new emphasis that we have on culturally specific organizations. You know, it's really hard for a kid who doesn't have anyone in his or her school who looks like them to see a path forward. And if you have people in your community, in your schools, who show you that staying in school, that you can get a job, you can build a family and have a good life. I know that we talked about Portland Community College. They have wonderful programs that help kids realize what a community college degree can do for you by showing you what classes you need to take and tying it to what jobs you can get when you get a degree or a diploma. So I think there are so many, I could spend another hour talking about all the different services that we have at Multnomah County that touch on that, because getting kids through school is hugely, hugely important. Thanks.
We're out of broadcast time for further questions. As we close, please remember that due to that very generous offer you heard from Bill Dickey, today is a great day to join City Club. This is Greg McPherson, Board President for City Club. Please join me in thanking Multnomah County Chair Deborah Kafoury for her remarks. We're adjourned.